and the quarantine tank he swore was off limits. The calendar square arrived at 6:00 p.m., tidy as a donor plaque. Patrons, cocktail, city aquarium, late. 2 minutes later, Levi texted, "Don't wait up. Husbandry wants me to peek at a chiller hiccup in quarantine after speeches. Proud of me." Read he spends the heart when the rest of the sentence is asking for diplomatic immunity. I turned the soup down to the kind of simmer that calls itself maturity, and looked across the river at the glass wedge of the aquarium. At dusk, its panes turn from transparent to interested. The place starts to glow like it's remembering the ocean on purpose. The square on my phone pulsed once and then behaved. I rinsed an already clean spoon because sometimes unnecessary is the only honest verb available. At 6:22, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize and a message that knew me anyway. If the patrons are upstairs, why did he just badge the back corridor to Quarantine B? Delivery gate off Wharf Street. Reader hates witnesses. Cover it with your palm and lean. I can hold sweep 2 minutes. Signed with a single letter, N, as if the alphabet had leaned against a skimmer and promised not to splash. Nash runs nights at the aquarium with the calm of a man who negotiates with compressors the way saints negotiate with weather. He and Levi trade competence in a dialect of dissolved oxygen and donor moods. He and I have shared 2 cigarettes beside a freight elevator that thinks it's a lighthouse, and once we laughed hard enough that a ceiling camera tried to learn timing. We have not touched. I remember not touching more clearly than most men remember vows. "Why tell me?" I wrote. "Because your calendar is polite and my badge logs aren't," he sent back. Because he looked up before he swiped. People only look up there when they want oxygen. Because off limits is keep out, the way champagne is hydration. Wharf Street wears its puddles like mirrors the city owes rent on. The delivery gate's red eye blinked into reason after I covered it and leaned. The crash bar remembered its job. The corridor beyond smelled like salt and disinfectant, like labor that expects to be misunderstood. I followed a strip of blue tape that had made its peace with authority, and passed a sign that said PPE required as if manners were a species worth saving. Quarantine B is a quiet kingdom of square tanks with silvered lids and clipboards that think in small, careful numbers. In the far corner, under a hood light that flatters nobody, Levi stood with his jacket off, and his shirt open one button past credible, tie folded into his pocket like an alibi. Opposite him, resting 2 fingers on the rim of a tank as if the water recognized his subscription, was Rowan Cates, developer, board vice chair, a roomer with a marina and opinions about everything that glitters. Rowan's hand hovered near Levi's wrist without landing, because proximity photographs better than contact when your brand buys access and invoices discretion. "Off limits is crowded," I said from the doorway. Levi turned. For a beat Truth borrowed his face and refused to pay it back on time. Then the public version arrived, the one that can say sustainable sourcing without blinking. "Miles," he said. How did?" "Nash likes nouns," I said. "I like doors." Rowan's smile had learned its manners from reflective surfaces. "We were reviewing a chiller alarm," he said. "Donors enjoy feeling technical." "I prefer alarms that don't need applause," I said. Levi took 1 step toward me and gave the second back to the concrete. "We were checking flow after the speech," he said. He wanted to hear the pumps without the stingrays clapping. "Sound is persuasive," Rowan said. He lifted both hands like tasteful parentheses. 2 minutes. The sweep is punctual, so am I. He drifted along the row of tanks toward a window where moon jellies pulsed like patient punctuation, pausing to admire a brass valve as if it might autograph his evening. As he passed, 2 fingers tapped Levi's shoulder, punctuation, not possession. The pumps pretended to be weather. Levi watched me the way men watch storms they hope will have the decency to move on. "I was going to text you," he said, lower now, using the register he keeps for mornings and the soft under my jaw. "After. I wanted to know I could leave this room without letting it correct me." "You wanted to be caught," I said. "Not punished, caught." He breathed once, and the nearest skimmer made a small approving sound. "Yes. There is a temperature at which grammar resigns." I crossed the rubber mats to him and put my mouth on his because steel and water deserve an honest witness. He kissed back with the relief of a man who has been paying interest on restraint, compounded nightly by flattery. He tasted like Gala bourbon rinsed in brine. My thumb found the hinge of his jaw and pressed. He made the small, involuntary sound I keep receipts for. His palm slid under my shirt and settled flat between my shoulder blades like a promise that refuses notarization. We didn't undress. Cameras in the back rooms learn quickly and hoses like to supervise. He broke the kiss first because he knows the exact second heat applies for narrative. He rested his forehead against mine. A school of baitfish in a tank to our left turned as one body, reminding us that choreography and survival sometimes wear the same suit. "I didn't kiss him," he said. "I wanted to want to. I texted Nash." "You did," I said. "He prefers oxygen to salvage." From the jelly window, Rowan tilted his head with the tidy curiosity of a man who believes the ocean is a personality quirk he can afford. He didn't come closer. The jellies pulsed neutrality. "Come home," Levi said. "After I thank the man who listens to pumps," I said. Nash waited in the chemical room doorway with a lanyard looped around 2 fingers and the sort of stillness that convinces noisy things to apologize. He didn't smile. He also didn't make mercy expensive. "Sweep hits B corridor in 90, he said. "If you don't want to explain yourselves to a flashlight that recognizes your shoes, cut behind quarantine through necropsy and out by the loading dock. The dock cam believes every bin is a bin." "You sent the message," I said. "I opened a door," he said. "You two remembered how to walk." The necropsy room smelled like stainless steel that tells the truth for a living. We moved through it with the competence of people who don't desire a caption. The loading dock spat us back into night, where river air negotiated with reputation. We walked home along the boardwalk because lobbies try to narrate and sidewalks mind their own puddles. In the kitchen, the soup forgave me for mistaking patience for character. We ate standing, like mammals who know where the bowls live. He told me Rowan had been sculpting a compliment into a proposition for 3 weeks, and he had helped because selection feels like love when usefulness empties your pockets. I told him Nash had texted because some people choose air over alibi. He didn't ask whether Nash and I had ever been colossally stupid together. I didn't say how the greenish glow from a windowed tank turns Nash's mouth into punctuation that finally knows its job. We didn't fight. There wasn't a theater left to sell. Later, in bed, we left a sliver of cool like a reservation and then let it surrender because the night had already billed us for restraint. He kissed me with the steadiness I trust more than policy. I put my mouth where his jaw goes humble and told it a morning. It was heat without spectacle. The building minded its radiators. Across the river, the aquarium polished its reflections and politely forgot our names. He fell asleep with his hand on my wrist, not as claim, not as proof, just counting the animal we've decided to keep. Morning behaved. Coffee made its case. Sunlight poured honest rectangles onto the table like a grant we didn't have to write. The calendar square for tonight stayed blank, which in this town is the kink we can afford. Levi tied a tie over a throat I intend to retire with patience and kissed me like the door already knew our names. He left to explain stability to a room that confuses awe with ownership. At 9:12, a text arrived from a number saved as one letter. No quarantine cam saw anything but lids. I looped a chiller diagnostic for 20. Consider it training. In I sent, you're very proud of your training. He replied, I'm proud of your exit. No punctuation correct. By noon, a lifestyle site posted a photo of Rowan laughing under a banner that read OCEANS, are for everyone like it had ever met a donor list. I scrolled past. It wasn't our room. At 1:27, Levi texted a picture of our kitchen table with the plant we keep refusing to let die basking in a responsible square of sun. Room exists, he wrote. The week pretended to be a tide chart you could trust. Rowan sent a revised pledge with fewer adjectives and more commas. Levi read to the part where the commas started to behave like a harness and set it face down. He pressed his forehead to my temple for a patient count of 7 and let air resume its job. 2 nights later, the aquarium hosted Night Behind the Glass, honest wristbands, real families, kids learning that not every touch tank is an invitation. We went together, because sometimes the correct grammar is plural. Nash nodded once from a supply cage like an usher who has already chosen a side. Rowan shook Levi's hand while a photographer instructed a blue tang to glow. A reporter asked about legacy. Levi pointed to an aquarist kneeling to show a child how to hold her breath and look without grabbing and said, "Legacy is what keeps rooms gentle." And the reporter wrote it down like she'd earned a truth. On the way home, we cut along the pier where the river practices likeness. Levi slid 2 fingers into my back pocket in the way that says not mine but here, and the knight did the decent thing and looked away. We burned the garlic bread and ate it anyway. At the bedroom door, he kissed me the way good sentences land, without ornament, unavoidable. I answered as if verbs were the last honest currency. It did not stay tidy. It never does here. An anonymous account posted a grainy still of 2 silhouettes reflected in a tank lid, one hand too near to be polite. The caption invented entanglement. The comments rented outrage and billed per breath. I put my phone down beside the plant and watched the plant win. Levi texted me a different image. Quarantine B at noon. Nash coaching a teen volunteer through a water quality strip while a chart confessed contentment. Our version works for a living, he wrote. Sunday rain arrived like a policy debate, late and too loud. Nash texted, back rooms are quiet. Want a stool where nobody sells you a seat? We went. He poured us paper cups of coffee that tasted like competence and showed us which gasket lies first, why you never trust a latch that apologizes, and the small change in pitch that means a pump is about to tell the truth. He didn't flirt with anything, not even the truth. He stood with his hands in his jacket pockets and told us a joke about rich men who think bioload is a metaphor. I liked him better for refusing to be necessary when he didn't need to be. The foundation staged a press event midweek to announce community hours for student researchers. Levi spoke first, about bolts and volunteers and maintenance, the only speech that ages correctly. Rowan promised to help the city meet its water on time, a sentence that managed to spend nothing and still collect applause. After, he shook Levi's hand and then looked at me with the careful respect of a man evaluating whether he cannot purchase. You're both very good at exits, he said. Practice, I said. He laughed because it was the only honest thing left on his card. A columnist with a talent for adjectives implied Levi's access came courtesy of Private Tour. The piece included a photo of lids that could have been any lids and a paragraph that could have been any rumor. The comments did their choreography. I carried the plant to the sink and let water talk to its roots like a promise we could keep. That night, we turned our phones face down and cooked like people who still believe heat tells the truth. On a wet Thursday, Nash texted a single word, weather, and we met him by the intake where the gutter negotiated with the river. He showed us which drain floods first, where to stand when lightning auditions against stainless, and how to hear the faint hesitation that means a chiller is about to forget itself. He didn't ask about the photo. We didn't say his name out loud. 3 people wide under a corrugated breath, we let the storm delete adjectives we didn't need. Life kept declining to be purchased. Rowan kept sending commas that wanted homes. Levi kept returning them with better ones. The plant kept inventing a shade of green that turns vanity domestic. We kept our calendar squares blank on purpose because blanks are the only promises rooms respect. Sometimes, near midnight, we walk the boardwalk and look at the aquarium's dark panes. From the river you can't see quarantine bee, only a low working glow pretending not to belong to anyone. That's as it should be. We circle the block of water and go home without letting the building perform at us. He takes my wrist like a man reteaching himself the grammar of doors. I think about the off-limits room and the 2 minutes that were enough, about how some rooms try to own you and others teach you how to leave correctly. Sometimes I think about Rowan paused by the jelly window like a man who wants to buy air and discovering it doesn't invoice. Sometimes I think about Nash's line, "I opened a door," and how it's the only biography I want for this version of us. Tonight's square is empty. We're leaving it that way. Let the aquarium keep its speeches and the city its applause. We have the loading gate, a plant we refuse to let die, and the quiet grammar of a decision that knows where it belongs. Not in the rumor, not in the photo, but in the mouth that learned to say come home and mean it. If we get caught again, let it be by each other. The rest of the world can rehearse wonder. We'll be in the room that doesn't need it, counting breaths until they sound like steady water and a morning we can afford, and calling that enough.